Today is January 6th and the time is 6:05 p.m. This is the regular meeting of the Scituate School Committee. At this time, we will proceed with a roll call. Erica McCormick,
Present.
Colleen Rose,
Present.
Colleen Pendergast,
Present.
Lori Hart Lafauci,
Present.
David Medbury.
Present.
A quorum is present. This meeting includes the reorganization of the board. Nominations are now open for the position of chair.
I nominate Eric McCormick to continue as chairperson.
A second.
It has been moved and seconded that Erica McCormick has been nominated for chair. Are there any further nominations? Hearing none, nominations are now closed. All those in favor of electing.
So I usually there's a point for discussion.
Okay.
So yeah, so a motion and a second and then discussion. So I just want to bring up, I know over the last few months, there's been a lot of I don't want to say the lack of word controversy regarding you with your husband being on the town council. And I just think for discussion purposes, it would be important for us to discuss that. Do you see that as any form of conflict? Do you think there's been any bearance on, being able to represent the school's needs in comparison to the town?
I personally feel that there's no conflict. I know there's other towns in the state where you both have both school committee and town council members. As a married couple, I am steadfast in working towards the school and the students. So I personally don't see a conflict myself, but maybe I don't see it myself because it's me.
Yeah, no, I didn't know if anyone else wanted to opine on that. I know it's come up several times and I thought it would be important to make note in the public record if anyone else had any feelings or sorts, or if I was the only one that questioned that. No, none being said. So that's, again, obviously, I'm concerned. I think there was the concern about, particularly when it came to budget time, advocating for the needs of the schools versus what the towns, I get they hold the budget, and we have to play nice. We have to, we're not anything without them, but I think I just had some concern with putting schools before the needs of the town. It's for us to ask and them to say no. That's my point. That's all I have for discussion.
Okay. Thank you. All of those in favor of electing Erica McCormick as chair say A.
A.
So all those, I'm going to just repeat it. All those in favor of electing Erica McCormick as chair say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
The ayes have it, and Erica McCormick is elected chair. Congratulations, and I now turn the meeting over to Chair McCormick.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to convene into executive session? Oh, dear heavens.
I nominate Colleen Rose.
Mike,
Clerk.
Mike,
I'll nominate Colleen Rose as clerk of the school committee.
I'll second.
any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Colleen Rhodes is clerk. Now do I have a motion to convene into executive session?
Motion to convene into executive session. For the reasons set forth in the agenda. And you want me to read it all? Approval of executive sessions for December 2nd, 2025, collective bargaining with the Scituate Educational Support Personnel, NERI. That's how you say that. Pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42, 46, 5A2, collective bargaining. Update of the STA negotiations pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42, 46, 5A2, collective bargaining. MV Scituate School Department, special education pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42, 46, 5A2, potential litigation. Review and approve and/or approve matters which relate to the privacy of students and their records pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42, 46, 5A8, homeschool request. Update on the STA negotiations pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42, 46, 5A2, collective bargaining. And pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42, 46, 5A1, job performance, character, or physical or mental health of a person, provided that persons affected shall be notified in advance in writing and advised that they may require that the discussion be held at an open meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We're going to have everybody in the audience leave during executive session.
Public meeting, just like the town council,
John, do we need
They-
to go somewhere else?
they have another place to go.
Is your mic
in
on?
Executive session.
I was going to have you put your mic on.
Mr. Finnegan, the school committee voted to go into executive session. That vote means that they're meeting in executive session. If you look at the agenda, it says auditorium at the top. So the school committee is going to meet in this room, and you can step out. You can file yet another open meetings complaint. And once again, I will respond to the Attorney General that it's frivolous.
Well, you haven't responded. So maybe you should.
No,
stop-
I have.
Maybe you
I
should start responding.
I have
to the Attorney
responded.
General. They haven't received your answer.
I have
So
responded.
don't tell this
numerous
committee
requests.
that you have responded, because you have not responded.
Yes, I have,
You
Mr.
keep
Finnegan.
asking for extensions. So
On-
why don't you
on one,
No.
all the
Why don't-
rest of the
Why don't
frivolous
you
ones,
keep, why
the
don't you
ones about the
respond?
Chopmas Hill meeting responded to. The other one, I mean.
Just yesterday, you asked for another 20-day extension.
Excuse me, point of order. We have business we have to attend to. We have an open meeting that starts at 7. We need to, I don't want to make anyone else late. If you don't mind, I'd like to get to business. And you can continue, you can file a complaint. Obviously, that's your right, but if you don't mind, I'd like to get business going here so we can get the rest of the public meeting started on time. Thank you. I'd like to call a meeting to order. If we could all stand and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for your patience while we were doing our tour. I'd like to report out that in an executive session, we took a vote to approve the executive session minutes. We took a vote to approve homeschooling requests, and we took a vote regarding the collective bargaining, and all votes were unanimous, 5-0. Next, our consent agenda looks a little different than usual. We have on it budget transfers, so my plan was to take a motion to accept consent agenda, but then have discussion after it's seconded. So do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
You have to read it,
Make a motion.
Mike.
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda. Minutes from December 2nd, 2025. Bills, general fund bills, $526,420.39. Grant fund bills, $43,727.31. And a nutrition fund bill of $29,679.33.
And the budget transfers, can you read those?
Oh. And also the budget transfers, a budget transfer for Scituate Middle School from Office Tech Hardware, SMS $6,200 to SMS Music. A budget transfer from central office and district accounts in the amount of $177,758.96.
So I have a motion. Do I have a second? And now discussion. We have on here budget transfers, which we normally have never had, but we have it on consent agenda. And I wonder if anyone has questions for Mr. Baxter, who was our finance director, to ask him any questions.
Yes, I'd like to hear a little bit about this, but before we do that, policy, I know at one point in time when there were budget transfers, they
Yeah.
had to come to the committee. So
Anything over $5,000.
so why is this the first, like this?
I don't know why. I just know that policy is being followed because these are over $5,000.
Okay.
Is that your only question?
If you want to just maybe explain a little bit about what this is and why. I know historically, there's been a lot of times when we're looking at budgets where UCOA codes, did I get that right? Pretty good, huh? For
Yeah,
them.
right.
This has been a struggle for the last few years, going from different systems and different, that's my lay person's term of, so I just didn't know if this was part of that or what you want to say about it.
Sure. Thank you very much, by the way. Thank you for the welcome to the district. And regarding the first transfer for the music instruments, that was again just a transfer for the policy 3031. It was over $5,000 between object codes. And so we are bringing that to the committee for approval. There's not too much detail there. The larger transfer was
So I guess my question is, are these actual, so this is stuff that's being spent for Scituate, like the music department at the middle
Yeah.
school?
yeah, so
But it was listed under a different line. You're not asking for any more money. I'm getting it. I just want to make sure everyone's in the same. Okay.
yeah, so regarding the short answer is yes. The long answer, if you want the long answer, is
Like a halfway answer.
yeah, the middle school is looking to purchase $1,200 in musical instruments. The budget for that line item account, for some reason, I don't know, it was originally loaded with minus $5,000. And so we're transferring the 5,000 plus the 1,200, or we are requesting to transfer the 5,000 plus the 1,200 for the instruments to purchase the instruments.
All right, so that's a little bit different, I think, than what I was saying. And what we've heard a lot of over the last few years is, and again, as we change financial systems, it wasn't that we were necessarily, I'm going to use computers were in line XYZ, right? But they really belonged in line ABC. So it was just more or less switching from one place to another. But what I think I hear you saying, and I think this is important for, I mean, again, $1,200 isn't, is that we're utilizing money set forth for a different purpose to cover an expense. And if we're doing that, moving forward, are we adjusting those line items accordingly? And are we going to fall short on the other end?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Just
Yep, exactly. So that's an excellent question. So, I'm with something like this.
granted, you've been in the door about 4 days. I get it.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not
yeah.
trying to.
No, I
Yeah.
don't take it that way. And I think the question is a great question, and no worries, no worries.
Okay.
So regarding the transfer, so philosophically, right, my approach, or the approach that we're bringing to the district is I work with the building leadership. This is not central office telling the school, this is the school telling central office. And the principal has looked at her budget and said, hey, I know what my projected spending is going to be. I can, without any consequences, within our spending plan, we can take funds from, in this case, the equipment account, and use them for the musical instruments to reflect the priorities that we have in the building. So I think that
And that is the way the budget should be done. Obviously, kudos to everyone involved. And I'm by no means am I trying to say or take that power away, because obviously the Accountability Act, we've put more back to where it belongs. But then in a move forward, is this a one-time thing? Then do we adjust budget lines or?
so this is so the budget transfer process is an in and an out, right?
Okay.
So we maintain, we're balanced, whenever we do a transfer. So if I understand your question
Let
properly.
me ask this question. This might, and I promise this will be it. So it's a lot, but it's more in theory perspective than worries about the money. So I think what I'm understanding is principal looked at a budget, said, I need this. I can pull from here. We're going to do this. This is part of this. Next year, when we look at budgets, it's going to reflect what the other budget was. We're not changing the ask. However, the principal or whomever may at that point say, you know what, I needed this here. This is how I'm going to submit my budget. Did I make
Yeah.
sense in saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. I answered.
You're welcome. Thank you. So I'd request your support, your approval for that transfer. The second transfer, the rationale is a little, it's a little different or broader in scope. The issue is that, over the first, so keeping in mind that the budget request, right, our budget process starts, like now for next year. And the budget was approved and loaded based on certain assumptions and whatnot that we've had experienced different events and patterns. So one of the more significant ones in this transfer is the change of the district not being the fiscal agent, for instance, for Northwest. So what we're asking here, and then, so what we're asking
So
for.
we're down revenues based on that change that was not
Well,
anticipated.
so we're only talking about expenses. So
Okay.
so just focusing on the expense budget here. But we had expenditures budgeted, which we're not going to experience because we're not the fiscal agent anymore. And there's also other areas where we were overspending, or there were expenses charged to accounts that weren't anticipated. So we're asking to transfer and basically rejigger our budget, you know, within, and a lot of it's small stuff. There's some significant things, but within,
Thousands, not small though.
no,
Like-
no. In aggregate, remember there's like 100 lines or something. So in aggregate, it's a large number, but it's again, it's transfer in and out ties and it's within many lines to take where we're not expecting to see any, you know, where we had projected, but not expecting to see any expenditures, for instance, like the Northwest things, and transfer those funds to where we need them. So that's,
Last question, if you're presenting this to us, both of you, obviously, we should, because we have to vote to approve this, correct? We have to, in good faith, that you're clearing this for us to do. You're saying this is appropriate. And I'm not being fresh by asking that. I'm being like, this is what you're seeing from being fiscally prudent, we should be doing so that everything is allocated.
that's correct.
Yes, and if I can just go back to Rob's example, as like a small example, for example, with the budget transfer and spinning off of with Northwest. So for example, we were the fiscal agent with Northwest. We had staff that we paid on a payroll. It doesn't mean that we're not paying those people, but they're not on our payroll. To now we have a partnership with another district that is the fiscal agent. So it becomes a service. So you used to see it as a pay and used to see it as a benefit. But that would now change because what Rob is saying to you, like a year ago, when you started building this this FY26 budget, you didn't know that that was going to need to change. Now we know. And so we want our FY26 budget to reflect what we are actually doing. And what we're actually doing in this specific example is paying a service to another school district, which is not paying a payroll and a benefit. It is paying out, but they're still paying the payroll and the benefit. In this
Yes,
case,
yeah.
Foster Gloucester is paying a payroll and a benefit for those people, but we have to pay for the services to Foster Gloucester. So it's a different line. At the end of the day, the bottom number is still the same exact budget. We're not asking for more money or we're not saving any money. We're still paying these people. We're just paying them in a different way, which means we're transferring the money from one account to another in terms of our uniform chart of accounts.
Yeah,
Does that
and the
make
only
sense?
thing that I think we as a committee need to be conscious of, and is that when we're pulling, you're telling us we can pull. Like, we're not gonna have a structural deficit down the line, because,
Correct.
right, does that make sense? I just want to
Yep.
be clear to everybody that
Yep.
this is the process that and obviously we would look to these things moving forward for next year's budget when we're allocating and doing and kind of maneuvering all the things. While we're on this topic, just a quick, in your previous districts, I asked this question to both of you. The policy's been in place for a while. Is it general practice that amounts over $5,000? Is there a number generally yeah, please.
I wanted to make sure it wasn't too low.
Yeah, that's my question. I don't want this to be more, we want to be very transparent in our budget process. But I want to make sure that we're giving you enough leeway in what is common practice everywhere else.
So I reviewed policy 3031 and, you know, compared it based on my experience in other districts. So not a huge, you know, I didn't look at and it's reasonable because the amount is the same, the limits are the same as my prior districts. And the other restrictions and exceptions, because you have restrictions in terms of between object codes. So if somebody wanted to transfer $6,000 between the same object code, but a little different.
We don't need to come for us for that.
Correct.
Yes, okay.
So, and also you have exceptions in the policy for, as you mentioned, UCOA coding and compliance. So you're good. And I think if I could just go a little further, the question that you brought up earlier which is, hey, if I can cut to the chase, is can we trust you? And I,
Yeah.
no.
I'm pretty direct, man. I say it that way.
No, but it's
Yeah, yeah.
it's an excellent, the way that we, and specifically me, you know, helps to build that trust is to be entirely transparent, to show you the detail and to use.
Just here, I
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
too.
Yep. So I would say we got a good policy. I wouldn't ask.
And obviously, if a principal came to you and said, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and for both of you, because I'm assuming if this is coming to us, it's passed by you, it's passed by our super, Linda, you would say, no, we can't do this for that reason.
Before I go to the community, are there any other questions from school committee members? So I just want to remind the community that you can come up once for each agenda item. Nope, I'm staying right on here because but I see someone here wanting to ask a question. And I'll give you 3 minutes just so we can keep the meeting moving. So Colleen, if you could get Colleen Rose. Oh, thank you. So name and address, please. I can't hear you.
Richard Finnegan, Ridge Road.
Thank you.
Second agenda item, the 177. Is that more than one $5,000 item?
Pardon me, that there are many items detailed in the schedule that was attached to the agenda. And some items are over $5,000. Many items are below $5,000. But in the aggregate and for transparency's sake, because it's not a one-to-one like this, this in is going to that out, so to speak. I chose, I thought it was best to show the entire transfer in its entirety.
Thank you for that. On the agenda item, it's not clear what you're doing here. You're transferring $177,000. The public out here, I can ask anybody out here where it's being transferred to or from.
I think it was, my understanding is that
Should be attached, Richard.
to the agenda, it was attached to show exactly where it's delineated, exactly what.
Is this on the Secretary of State's website?
Yes,
Is it-
because it's a 5-page agenda item, so you can
Okay.
see that there's 2 pages of agenda and these 3 pages are attached to the agenda for public.
Okay, I'll look at it. I didn't see it. Thank you. I know you put out 3 agendas, so I didn't see it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess to your point of transparency and his question, just caused a thought. So theoretically, you would not have, there's no, a number of things under here that are under 5,000 in individual. You could have just moved those and not said anything, but this is putting it right out there to say in the aggregate, this is what we're doing. So I think this speaks very well of your practice and keeping us informed too of what's happening. So thank you. Gotten to trust you already.
I have a motion and a second. If there's no more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? I'd like to have a motion to move public comment to after the financial report, just in case what's discussed in the assistant superintendent's report in the financial report might answer some people's questions. So I'd like to move public comment to after the financial report.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So up next is the middle school annual presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dana Morrell, the building principal at Scituate Middle School. Tonight,
Can you bring it down a little bit? Work the room, lady.
first time. So hi, welcome to tonight's presentation. Our assistant principal of teaching and learning has put together our data presentation. She is instrumental in all things teaching and learning with the middle school and the high school. So we have quite a few initiatives going on this year in terms of teaching and learning. And she has been doing a phenomenal job with leading our curriculum implementation with the ELA curriculum, as well as supporting all our other content areas. So tonight I'm going to hand the presentation over to Ms. Goff, and she will walk through the data presentation. At the end, we can answer any questions you or the community might have.
Hi, everybody. I feel like I just did this for the high school. So if you were here then, it's almost the same, but the data will be a little bit different. So the middle school came in at 3 stars last year on the RIDE report card. I kind of highlighted the mid-level performance for you to look at. There's a breakdown on the next slide. So if we look at school quality and student success, we earned 9 out of 15 points. And for achievement and growth, we earned 10 out of 17 points, which leaves us with 3 stars. So if we go to the next summary of data, we can kind of look into that a little bit more. If you look at the points possible, the points you can earn are anywhere from 3 to 4 points, depending on the category. So achievement in ELA and math, we scored a 2 out of 4 points on that. Everything else except for teacher chronic absenteeism, which is the highest score at 3. We got a 2 out of 3. So when I look at that, I say, okay, so we only earned 2 out of 4 points for ELA and math. What do we need to do to increase that achievement there? Do you want to talk a little bit about absenteeism? Because I know that you do a really great job with you have
With our student absenteeism?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So it's great to see that our chronic absenteeism for our teachers, we scored the top possible points of 3. In terms of chronic absenteeism for students, you'll see that we scored 2 out of 3 points. However, this year we have
Ms. Burrell, just to be clear, because I looked at this at first and I'm looking at it on my phone. I'm not being rude. I promise I'm following along. This is showing us, because I looked at it quickly. I'm like, oh my God, our teachers are, this is saying our teachers are not chronically absent according to.
correct.
Yeah,
So we scored
yeah.
the highest points
Yeah,
in that
that-
area.
which is a
So the
good-
highest points, that's a good thing. So the highest points you could score is 3 points for teacher absenteeism. We scored all 3 points. So that's great. And that leads us to student absenteeism. You'll see that we have 2 points out of possible 3 points. And what we're doing to combat that this year is we made it a priority in our school improvement plan, and we started an absentee committee. So we call it the A team. We meet every other week, and it's a core of teachers. We look at our Power School data. We create action plans. We do root cause analysis. We reach out to families. We have weekly check-ins. We also have our connection survey, which was facilitated by our school psychologist, where we identify 3 trusted adults for every single student in the building. And we create opportunities for those adults to have touch points with those students that are struggling to get to school. We've also been working closely with our attendance officer, who we use, and we've been following up with truancy court as necessary. So we do have it combated on multiple fronts, including our social emotional supports for all kids. Yes.
So do you find that the revised policy is working much better?
It's a work in progress. We
do-
still battle with the fact that RIDE deems an absenteeism as you're either in school or you're not in school. They don't recognize excused absences. It has helped relationships at the building level with families to give them the opportunity for parents to call their students out sick. We ignore excused absences in terms of our policy. So it has helped in those instances. But honestly, according to RIDE, the chronic absenteeism, it's based on whether or not the kids are in their seats. So kids could be absent 20, 30 times a year, and every one of them could be excused with a doctor's note, but they're still considered chronically absent according to RIDE definition. So it's a balance, but the changes in the policy has helped parents, and it has, we work better with parents and families on being able to have parents keep their kids home when they're sick, not have to chase down doctor's notes as much. So yes, that has helped.
Dana, is there a reason that there's 1 out of 4 and then 1 out of 3 for the other categories? Because it would look like, by the way I read it, is you have more students exceeding expectations and you have good amount of students growth in growth in ELA and math, but then your achievement is 50%. Do they break that down for you?
Yeah, so it's just the way it's weighted. It's the metrics, like anything else. So
But to be clear, that's a star rating. That's not saying they're 50% proficient in.
no, not at all. So that's not,
Yeah.
that's not indicative to our percentage at or above standard. Those are just how many points. It's a half. So we get 2 out of 4 points. So that line is going to be at the 50% mark. We have 2 out of 3 points. It's going to be at the 66% mark for that.
Right.
And honestly, the achievement for ELA and math is just weighted more, it's weighted heavily. And so
And
it's going to
just
skew.
strange that, 2 out of 3 and exceeds expectation is a higher percentage than 2 out of 4. So it's weird that they list it like that, I'm just curious that the ride does that,
Yeah, there's a like metric and a cut, and every time the accountability system, each
Yeah.
year they update it and revise it, but it's just the.
It's just the way
that's
they
behind
don't
it.
show where you're doing well and maybe next year, maybe you're achieving that 3 is my point. That was,
Yeah,
the way it looks like you have a good amount of people that are exceeding and have growth.
it's a 2-year period
Yeah.
too. So it's a
Hmm.
2-year period for all ELA assessments you take in the school, including dynamic learning maps with our students that have special education. So it's encompassing of a lot over a multi-year period too.
Appreciate it. Thank
So-
you.
I have a question for both of you. Has RIDE ever been known past to change their criteria on chronic absenteeism based on a pandemic? Such as right now, there's high concerns about the flu. I mean, we've all been masked again in the health field. Have they ever changed criteria based on the Department of Health that you're aware of?
No, I'm not aware of any changes.
Push is post-pandemic. Right? Am I correct in saying this?
Yeah, the definition according to RIDE has not changed for chronic absenteeism. It's 10%.
Yeah.
So whether it's a year after COVID or 5 years out or 5 years before, it's still 10%. So that equates to 18 days a year.
And I'm not referring to our past pandemic, but our current is not a pandemic.
Yeah,
Our
no, it
current
hasn't changed at
Right.
all though.
high younger, people that are getting the flu right now. So I'm just curious if they ever would be interested, and they should. They should really adjust it based on some of the things that are going on out there in the Department of Health.
I think that's one of the challenges that we face in schools is that, when you have a high rate of flu or some sort of illness and there's no really differentiation between excused absence and unexcused absence. If a kid is sick for, 2 1-week periods, that's 10 days. Now they've only got a buffer of 8 by the end of the year. It's very easy to reach that when you have a student who is vulnerable. I also, just sidebar here, I realize it says Scituate High School at the top. I assure you the data is for middle school. That is entirely my fault when I was editing the high school presentation, so I apologize. Well, okay.
The logo's.
Yes. All right, so this was based on our school improvement plan. It's the same kind of information I went over at the high school. RICAS math scores do exceed state average in the middle school, but they still dip from elementary scores. RICAS ELA exceeds state average, but writing is still an area of need. And NGSA science scores are generally equal to the state average. I'm going to talk a little bit more about these in detail in the next slides. Summary of priorities, obviously improving math, improving ELA, and improving science. Okay, so our goal was that we would increase math RICAS by 5% by the end of 24-25. How do we plan on doing this? Formative assessments mirroring RICAS. So we did this with ELA and math. We worked with the teachers at the middle school for each content area and talked about designing formative assessment pieces that were similar to RICAS and how their questions were set up, looking at released items where there are writing passages, reading passages, looking at those multiple choice questions, incentivizing assessment. So we recognize students who not just performed well, but had a lot of growth, and then implementing MTSS, which is our multi-tiered system of support. And at the middle school, we meet biweekly to talk about students in need. These referrals come in from teachers typically. And then we kind of review absenteeism, scores, disciplinary referrals, things like that to see what supports we can give those students. Alex, which is a math program, and STAR progress monitoring. So these are our math assessment results, and I'll talk a little bit more about this. For last year, we went to 34%. Now, I know that doesn't seem probably very high, but it is above the state average, and we grew by 1%. I'd also like to say that math is a challenging area for the entire state, and this accounts for SAT scores at the high school as well. So it's a conversation that's ongoing about how we can best support kids to raise scores in math. So let's talk about what we found we did really well. Special education students, which is considered a subgroup, exceeding expectations, grew 6%. Our special education students who had high growth grew 7%. Economically disadvantaged students who had high growth grew 9%. Our grade 8 students who had high growth grew 6%. Our grade 7 students meeting and exceeding grew 8%, and our grade 6 students meeting and exceeding grew 10%. So that's great news. Where do we need a little more support? Well, when we look at grade 6 students achieving high growth, that decreased by 4%. Grade 7 students with accommodations not meeting expectations increased by 6%, and grade 8 students meeting expectations decreased by 13%. I want to talk about grade 8 for a minute. When I met with the math team, we always look at the scores that come out each year and compare those years. So if I'm teaching grade 8 math, I'm saying, okay, last year my grade 8 students scored this, but the past year they dropped by 13%. Did I do something wrong? Did I miss something? So what I did is I went back and I looked at the cohort. So the grade 8 students last year are the grade 9 students this year. I looked at their RICAS scores going back. And what I found was that cohort has dips naturally in math and ELA. So even though the grade 8 students meeting expectations decreased from the 2 years ago grade 8 students, that cohort actually grew. So the grade 8 students scored 13 points lower than the grade 8 students the year before. However, when I look at their scores from 7th grade to 8th grade, they grew 7%. And so that tells me that we're doing something right. The scores aren't necessarily the best in the state, but we're doing something right when that cohort of students is growing, and that's what we're looking for. So what are we doing about it? We held great content area data meetings with the math teachers. We talked about exactly what I just explained in more depth. Where do we do really well? Where do we need support? We look at the standards. What standards are most commonly assessed? Where did they do really well? Where did they not do really well? What questions can we implement in our day-to-day practice? What formative assessment pieces can we implement so they're getting the practice that they need? In math, RICAS, there are a number of release items that teachers can use, and they're putting them in as warm-ups, exit tickets, in-class skills, collaborative learning opportunities, but also there are writing pieces. Those are called constructed response. For math, it's in English, we have essays, but so they are doing practice with constructed responses. They're looking at old samples, how they were scored, and they're revising their own work to make it better. So they're practicing the skill. There's after-school academic support at the middle school. Students are able to sign up for that and work in a smaller environment with the math teacher. We have what I need, which is, and we have it at the high school as well. We look at a number of data points for students and we determine whether or not they need additional support in reading or math. And that is fluid. So if a student is growing and testing above where they were and meeting benchmark, they're able to switch out of that. So that's reviewed throughout the year. And then we incentivize and recognize students who have had high growth and or achieve proficiency. So again, those kids who score really well, that's amazing. But we also want to look at the kids who have high growth, because a kid scores down here doesn't mean they're not doing well if they're growing. So we can't expect a kid who's scoring in the 1 range to be a 4, but we can hope that the kids who are scoring at the bottom are growing. Improving ELA achievement, and I kind of dipped into this a little bit already. They are implementing additional writing tasks, incentivizing assessment in MTSS, Lexia, which is a program that they're using for intervention, and STAR progress monitoring. So in ELA, just like math, we grew by 1% this year. Grade 6 students meeting or exceeding grew 3%. Grade 7 students meeting and exceeding increased 9%. And grade 8 students with accommodations who met expectations increased 8%. Grows and next steps. Grade 6 students who had high growth decreased by 7%. Grade 7 students with high growth decreased 5%. And our grade 8 RICAS ELA students meeting or exceeding decreased by 5%. I want to go back and talk about grade 8 for a minute. Again, I looked at the cohort. That cohort of students from grade 7 to grade 8, even though they show a dip, actually grew 13%. So you can't see it here because if we say, okay, my grade 8 class last year scored this and my grade 8 class this year dipped, you really want to ask yourself, like, let's look at the students. So those students the year before into grade 8 grew 13%, and that's a pretty big jump up. Very similar to math, held content area data analysis meetings to talk about what's working and what's not. Where are they struggling? Across the state, it's writing. So what are they doing? We're printing out all of the released writing for each student. So they're getting their essays from the year before. They're looking at the passage that was released. They're looking at the prompt. They're revising their work. I sat in on a grade 7 English class and I was blown away by the work that these kids did. The reflection, the collaborative conversations, the peer editing. That's what we want kids to practice. We want them to be able to look at their work, say, wow, I really could have done better here, and go through and revise. Yep. Implementation of RICAS released items. That's the same thing as the essay pieces, but they are also putting these questions, typical RICAS questions, into warm-ups, exit tickets, in-class skills practice. In addition to revising their former RICAS writing, they're doing beginning of year, mid-year, and end of year practice RICAS writing prompts that are separate from that. Again, we have after school academic support, what I need for reading as well, and then incentivizing and recognizing students who have high growth and or achieve proficiency on state tests. Middle school English is new this year. We have a new curriculum called Into Literature. The teachers really like it. They are very excited about it. I sat in on another class and was watching the implementation of a new lesson. And I'm a former English teacher at the secondary level. I was blown away by the high level conversations kids were having on their own with each other. The word choice, the higher level thinking questions, the push on each other to kind of extend their thinking. It was really like watching a high school level class unfold. It was one of the best lessons I've ever seen in my life. And it was one of the best lessons I've ever was able to be a part of. And I'm including myself in my history as an English teacher. It was amazing. So part of that is the teacher's excitement for it. And they're really just loving the being able to embrace the new curriculum and see what lies ahead for them.
Jen, I have 2 questions for you.
Yes.
On that last slide, You pulled out grade 8 as a cohort,
Yeah.
even though it shows a decrease, but it was actually an increase. My one question is, why don't you show us that graph of that? In addition to show growth
You
from.
know what? I created this and I submitted it and I thought I really should have like created that, but I had already submitted it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair. And was it the same with 7th grade or no? Like, was there
Sixth
growth?
and seventh grew. So their meeting exceeding grew, but the grade 8 meeting exceeding decreased. So I wanted to, in my head, I thought, let me look a little bit deeper into that. And because the cohort grew, which is something I would have put in there if I was kind of like trying to problem solve, like, let me see what's happening here. So I didn't do it for grade 6 and grade 7 because they met or exceeded where they already were. It was grade 8 for math and ELA. There was a dip from year to year, but not necessarily the cohort. So wanted to just talk about how the cohort grew.
I just wonder if that from your verbal explanation doesn't show a true picture. You explained it better, now you explained with the grade 8, they actually got better because you're looking from
Yes,
year to year.
yes.
It
Yeah.
doesn't tell us that. So
Yeah.
next
So
time.
I already put this on my radar for next year is tracking the cohort so we can get a visual.
Okay, thank you.
Improving science achievement. Our goal was to increase by 5%. The grade 8 science teacher, because NGSA is only in grades 5, 8, and 11, has worked incredibly hard with her team to create a number of tasks for students. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, and incentivizing the assessment the same way we do for RICAS, recognizing where students are in terms of achievement. So if you look at these scores, 3 years ago, our NGSA scores were 29% proficient. 2 years ago, we jumped to 58. That always makes me like a little, I wonder a little bit. I think that same way when we drop. When we jump up almost 30 points, I have to like be cautious. So Miss Merle and I had a number of conversations about this because sometimes you wonder, we're a very small population, right? Is it a fluke? Did something happen? So this past year, the kids took the test and they were at 48%. Again, coming back to Erica to talk about the cohort, I tracked the cohort to 5th grade. They actually stayed the same. And to me, that's great, especially when we look at the dips they had in math and ELA, that the same cohort was 48% cumulative, collectively in grade 5, and they're 48% last year in grade 8. I also want to say that 48% is the second highest score that we've had for grade 8 in the science history of the science testing. Yeah. So special education students meeting and exceeding grew 13%. Economically disadvantaged students not meeting decreased by 12%. And NGSA students with accommodations not meeting expectations decreased by 23%. So that's all really great stuff. I just talked about this, but the student cohort maintained 48% from 21 to 22 grade 5 NGSA. Our economically disadvantaged students who exceeded expectations decreased by 12%. And just like ELA and math, we do the content meetings. They are constantly doing NGSA practice items, and we recognize students who achieve proficiency and do well on the state tests. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Jen.
We just don't want
You're up.
So thank you very much. Thank you both. I'm going to begin with the acting assistant superintendent report, which I'll apologize on the front end for being a little long. It's really just in the midst of like the past month, there has been a lot that's happened, and it feels important to share. I'm also gonna just call out for a minute, the we, I reference we, and I will share that we have a strong, leadership team that I'm very proud of. I'm um, honored to work with them every day. So, and I just need to feel like I need to recognize them. We have experienced what I feel like is sustained positive momentum through the last couple of weeks with very strong collaboration, thoughtful planning, not only at central office, but of course throughout the buildings. Even during, and I'm going to start the conversation tonight talking about the Brown tragedy, and then I will move into some teaching and learning and a little bit of facilities. And then, of course, I'd like to highlight some staffing. But just to kind of get back, even during the period of heightened concern, our schools remained places of warmth, connection, and joy that really reflected the strength, resilience, and partnership that anchor the our academic excellence and the well-being here. And I am grateful for everybody, families, parents, the students, of course, the leadership team, the teachers, our facilities team, all paras, everybody really stepped up during those days. There was very calm, thoughtful way that the community came together. I also want to call out that we did work very closely with the Scituate Police Department. We reviewed our safety procedures, building protocols, we examined, for example, and we continue to do this, visitor processes. We conducted school walkthroughs, identified and required repairs, discussed safety with staff, reinforcing existing crisis safety plans. As part of the precautions, I just want to name, we did have consistent police presence, specifically at arrival dismissal, but then also throughout the day. We also put in some temporary measures. So in that moment, we did things like indoor recess, we postponed field trips, and those were just done out of an abundance of caution. And I'm deeply appreciative of all the supports during those days. I think it was a true, it is, you know, I always say like anybody can kind of lead on a good day. It's those tests of those challenging days that really show us what we're made of as a community. I also need to really like emphasize this, a special thank you to the chief, to the SRO, and the entire Scituate Police Department. Our leadership team is going to continue to partner strongly with the police department to strengthen our safety procedures and practices. This opportunity provided us this time to come together with and continue to come together with our crisis teams to review and reinforce these safety plans, evaluate the safety measures, and continue the staff professional learning on safety protocols, including ALICE training. I've already met with the SRO specifically, debriefed, continue to talk regularly with the chief. This is just the beginning for us. And I also want to call out that our district safety crisis team is meeting later this week, and we will provide an update to everybody on the details of that, and we'll continue to. I'll continue to touch on a few pieces of that, but I'm going to move into the staff piece. And so I do want to just call out a staff recognition for you. So as far as our employee updates, as of December 30th, Kyle Santos concluded her service as our Assistant Director of Special Education for the Northwest Special Education Region. And as she's already left, but I just feel it's really important that we again recognize and celebrate all she's done for us. Over the past 5 years, she worked tirelessly on behalf of the students, families, and staff, bringing thoughtfulness, collaboration, and deep commitment to problem solving in even the most complex of circumstances. Her leadership, professionalism, and dedication have had a lasting impact on the region and here in Scituate. And we're grateful for her service and wish her continued success in the next chapter of her work. I am so happy that I was able to overlap with her in my time here. And I know I'm better and we're all better for her work with us. I've also included, and this is shared as backup with our agenda tonight, but other updates to staffing. And so basically we see things posted in School Spring, and what I've been trying to do, including with updates for the entire community, is just list what the position is and then the status of it. And so, for example, and I'll talk a little bit more in depth about this, we've had filled recently an interim director of facilities and an interim director of administration and finance. So Barry, who was consulting with us, is now on staff, and I'm excited and honored to be able to work with him. And I'll talk a little bit more about him so we have that background. And then also, you've already heard from Robert Baxter, who has also joined our team. And again, is like done mammoth amount of work in a handful of days. We also have 2 anticipated speech language pathologist positions. We talked about those at our last meeting. We would either fill the 0.5 or the 1.0, but that is to address servicing gaps and be able to grow a program that's at Hope. In addition, we have 2 part-time special education para positions posted. We have filled the long-term substitute grade 1 at Hope Elementary, and Stephanie Vigney began this week, and we're excited to have her. I saw her there yesterday. We also have a move that happened that opened up a custodial position when a custodian moved to become maintenance, and Michael Prue has joined the team as a custodian. We have long-term substitute social studies in grade 6, James Ward filled. We have a posted for April anticipated long-term sub school nurse. And then we also have filled an anticipated long-term sub teacher math computer science with Courtney Gray, and we're so lucky to have her with us. And then I just want to call out that opening as a result of Kyle leaving. And as we work together with the region to discuss what will happen with Northwest for the remainder of the year and planning forward, we know that that's a partial opening, and I'll continue to keep you up to date on that. I want to just go back to the central office interim appointments. And again, Barry, who has been serving for our facilities management consultant, was hired. And I want to share publicly, he brings more than 18 years of experience in facilities and operations management, including recently served as the director of facilities for Foster School Department. His background includes oversight in building operations, preventative maintenance, capital projects, safety, security systems, vendor management, and building and budget administration. He's led major school facilities initiatives, including boiler replacements, roof projects, water system improvements, and district-wide safety upgrades, and has extensive hands-on experience with HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and grounds operations. So he also has been hitting the ground running and working nonstop, day, night, all hours, weekends, and we're so lucky to have him here. I also want to welcome Robert Baxter, who's joining us as Interim Director of Administration and Finance. And while I just want to be transparent, while TMS Consulting has provided valuable support, it was time for us to focus on a commitment with stronger systems and adopting best practices and the solid operational foundation that a full-time staff member can bring in this really critical area. He brings more than a decade of public school finance leadership experience, including serving as business administrator for Dighton Rehoboth Regional School District in Mass, and also executive director of finance and operations for Warwick Public Schools in Rhode Island. He holds an MBA in finance from Bryant and a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from URI. And he's recognized for strengthening financial systems, streamlining processes, and implementing adequate operational controls that allows him to draw on his private sector experience and extensive district level expertise. So again, I'm excited to have you both onto our central office team. I'm going to continue with the theme of central office, but talking about the Northwest Special Education region. It was a long conversation at our last meeting, and it just felt like we should have a small update. When we last met, we talked about that Foster Gloucester had a vote on their agenda. They did vote on that agenda on December 9th to withdraw from Northwest with the expressed expectation that the superintendent there would continue working with me to assess whether a collaborative path forward remains possible. And I shared this all with her to say, this is what I'm saying tonight. I just want to make sure we are 100% on the same page. And she said, I am, like, this is exactly what we have done. And so I just want to be very clear. Last week, she and I and Kyle, before she left, and Brad, our director, met. And so during this meeting, we began to outline potential pathways for a shared regional agreement. It was included, of course, collaborative special education leadership, also with a shared director, so a model continuing with the shared director, coordinating together early childhood supports, also a flexible PT physical therapist service based on the district needs. So that would change depending upon the needs we have in that area. We also discussed programming for ESY and having that be shared. And then the possibility of sharing an integrated pre-K program in the future. So we're also talking about how we can share and utilize specialized programs across the region. So we haven't dug into the specifics of that. We will continue to have these conversations and then to be able to present you with the plan. But and I will continue to keep you updated, but I do remain very confident in our ability to put together a collaborative program, but that I'm speaking on behalf of myself in this moment. I also just want to share, we all know there was an HR services RFP posted. We have not identified a consultant for that. Honestly, we have a lot of new in the district, and we have just want to kind of get on the conveyor belt and keep things moving and identify strengths that we have before we pull in another consultant to ask all the new folks more questions. It's not that this isn't an area of need, it most certainly is, but I do think it's important that with our central office folks and our building leadership, that we really clearly understand what we already have at the table that's available before we pull in and pay an external person to do something that we may have a strength on site for, and then fill that need with a consultant.
Yeah, I just want to push forward that this committee has spoken, and I agree with what you're saying. We have lacked someone in the HR. We have wonderful administrators. We have, and a lot of people have a lot of different degrees, none of which are, HR specialists. So that is lacking. Our attorney is as well versed as he is in labor law and all those good things, is not an HR person either. So I totally respect what you're saying, but it has been kind of a bone of contention, I guess I would say, for a significant period of time, that your jobs are to be administrators and educators first and foremost. So we do need help. There's nobody within this district right now that can function like, so we need to keep that moving forward.
I appreciate that, and I agree wholeheartedly, and I hear it. I hear it from other people, so I just want to acknowledge that, and from different pockets of people. I also feel that there are about, like, if I was going to do the job description, 10 bullets. And so if Rob has a strength in one of them and I have a strength in one, but we still have the other 8 outstanding, that's what the area, instead of paying a consultant to do.
Yeah.
But we're moving. Because there are many of them that we are not experts in and don't want to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you. The curriculum instruction and assessment, so teaching and learning, just very quickly, I'm going to just spit out the bulleted list of the things we're working on. For example, yesterday we had an elementary MTSS meeting. Folks, I just want to recognize that team that continues to work. We're working to expand the use of Power School and the MTSS module. We also have elementary data days that are happening by grade level this week, where we'll focus on writing and math. We are looking at strengthening our ELA and writing curriculum and reestablishing the writing committee. I'll call it like ELA writing committee. Doing the same work with science, and I think you're hearing that during these presentations, how we're continuing to analyze our science. Also, I want to call out professional development. And professional development, we're working to reestablish the PD committee. And then we would also be leveraging and utilizing data to determine the needs. And so as an example of that, we have things like Survey Works, we have a culture and climate survey with results, and we would want to lean into those kinds of pieces to call out the areas of need, while we also work directly with our teachers and our teacher leadership to identify where they see areas of need. And of course, our principals are always identifying those areas for us for PD. And then this data analysis, I want to call out as well that we would be utilizing it to strengthen our educator eval goals, school improvement goals, our budget planning, and you'll continue to hear those things, those items woven throughout. We are a smaller district and we should be able to be cohesive with this work. As I kind of start to wrap up, but I just want to speak again to the facilities. We do have a building committee meeting later this month, and we're working on the agenda, and we'll have that group update you as we move forward. But just because, again, going back to the work as we consider our buildings, even with respect to safety, and going back to how I started, we know that we need to continue to work and strengthen our human infrastructure, but we also need to work on the building infrastructure. And so in terms of just looking at what we experienced 2 weeks ago, we found areas of concern in each building, not a significant cost, but they needed to immediately be addressed. Things like exterior doors, a vestibule door that was sticking, the alarm systems that was now putting students outside when we didn't want them outside, classroom doors that weren't locking properly. Those kinds of repairs have all been taken care of, but they were heightened because of what and identified because of what we stepped through. I do want to give an update while we're in facilities on the elementary, on Hope Elementary and the roof. And that RFP where our goal is for that to come to you next month. We will be discussing it at the building committee meeting later this month. There is a multi-step RIDE review process. In addition, I want to share the North Scituate Elementary Opportunity Room has been completed. The Hope Elementary boiler system has continued to experience some frequent malfunctions, and that will be discussed at the building committee. So we do need to talk about how we could work on exploring some short-term repairs to stabilize that system. I'll say if been in the district for 20 days, 10 of them have been days that we've had a slow start with heat at Hope, and makes for cold mornings and impacts learning, quite frankly. Also, we talked earlier we've talked about the camera system in the high school and the middle school. And we know that needs to be on our radar to be updated. With that said, is also a consideration of the network. So you're putting cameras on a network. So we want to know that we're not going to take down the network. And so we are looking, Mark is working to have not anything comprehensive, but work to do an audit of the network to make sure that we can support those cameras, because we would not want to put money into a system that would not be able to produce. I just want to call out because we have talked about facilities in terms of safety, and I think we talked about it earlier tonight, the vestibule here at the middle school we've been discussing, and that will also be discussed with the building committee. In addition, Manning Field, what is on the agenda tonight? We're asking that that's tabled until next month, but, and this is again, in terms of a facilities update, we know the field needs a little bit of, like, I'll call it startup work for a season. And so we wanted to consider an RFP for that. This is not the maintenance of, this is getting ready for it. And we are dealing with an inordinate amount of wetness and precipitation in a marsh-like environment, and we are doing the best we can to get ahead of it. But we will give you, I'm just giving you kind of a brief update, and we'll give you more of an update next month. I also want to bring up the generator in this building, because, and I know I shared this in an email with the entire community, but we had an early dismissal the Friday before break. And we thought we were going to be able to hold out until the end of school that day. And what ended up happening is the generator capacity here in this at this site did not allow us to run running water and toilets. And so that made the decision that now we have a school that where children don't have running water and access to restrooms. And so then that makes for an early dismissal. So again, that this is ends up going back to our facilities conversation. We know that these critical systems need to remain operational. We have the generator, and we're going to work, and this will also be discussed with the crisis team as well. And then lastly, in terms of the facility, I want to just call out, and it will be on the January Building Committee, a discussion around the Cato Field press box. And so we'll keep you abreast of that work as that project moves forward. Just a few tiny miscellaneous. I want to share that we have, we're using a detailed weather information service. So this is a service I'm collaborating with Burrillville, Cumberland, and North Providence to have access to this. And I do like it. I think Barry and I have both been utilizing it. It allows us to get immediate updates when there is basically a weather storm that we have to watch for, and it includes things like road temperatures, which are very important for us. And then I want to just lastly before, and then I'm going to pass off to Rob for administration and finance update. I want to share, I sent out what I call an SSD update. So at the end of December, this went to the entire community. It is my plan that this will be a monthly communication where I'll be able to give similar updates with topics that were shared tonight. And so families, staff, the entire community can understand where we are in terms of staffing, curriculum, facilities, and the budget. And the initial feedback has been very positive. Any thoughts folks have, I'm happy to have and take the feedback from folks. And I am grateful for those that have reached out in support. And lastly, I'll just share, as I am grateful for Rob. We talk often, we are still in an audit for FY25. We are living in FY26 while we are planning FY27. So I know that things can get confusing for you, and we will try to do a better job of keeping those updates clear. And I am grateful to have Rob on board as he outlines and helps us with those pieces. And so I'm going to pass this off to him now. Thank you. Thank you for your patience with me.
And thank you very much. So this, pardon me, this is my fiscal report. I break my report into two sections. First, I have included in your packets 3 reports that are system generated, running from summary to an object code summary to detailed by account number. So I believe that it's important to, again, kind of to show you exactly the transactions, to have the backup data into the record, not that we need to go into the detail at every meeting. So the first report, the master object report, summarizes the budget to actual performance by master object. So using the UCOA, the state unified chart of accounts, they have expenses broken into master objects. So the 51,000 series, 52,000 series. So it's personnel, compensation, benefits, supplies, services. So that just gives you a real at a glance view of where the district's at. We can drill down further. The second report drills down further to show budget to actual performance by individual budget codes. So where are we at with our individual salaries, with substitute salaries, with supplies, with textbooks, with software? Again, summarized across the department, but by object. And then finally, the detail account level budget. So my intention there is in twofold. One is to show you, again, system generated reports so that you're seeing and we're presenting reports from our system to give you a sense not only of our fiscal performance, but also a look under the hood as to our fiscal controls. You'll see what we're moving and, pretty much each penny that's listed there, and we can field and give more detailed information if you have any questions when you review that. So that's the first. The point for this month's report, and again, keep in mind, I started when we get down to the notable events and as a acting assistant superintendent. So Sano mentioned, I started on the 15th of December, so this is a summarized report. But the bottom line is that we seem to have good fiscal performance. The key takeaway, though, the surplus that is mentioned at the bottom line of the summary is not a projected surplus. It's we do expect a favorable variance at the end of the year, but we're still in the process of projecting our spending, and much of what's shown there will actually be spent. So, for instance, a good example would be graduation supplies. We haven't put that in the. I'm giving you what's in the system, and we haven't encumbered that or even pre-encumbered graduation supplies yet. We're in the process of going through that cycle, but because it's not reflected in the system, it's not reflected in the report yet. So just keep that in mind. The second part of the report, just I usually try to provide notable events for the reporting period as it regards to finance and administration. I started on the 15th, and by the way, thank you very much. I have really enjoyed being at the district. I found we've got some significant strengths. First of all, we've got a great team in the business office. I'm very, very pleased to work with Jen and Josh, and we also have a good system foundation. That there's some work to be done, which we'll talk about, but it's we're in a great. I'm very, very happy about that. So the first thing based on the starting, typically in December, even a little bit earlier, we begin the budget preparation process for fiscal 27. And so one of my first tasks was to release workbooks to the leadership team members and lay out the process and the timeline for collecting the budget requests for fiscal 27. So right now, those packages have been released, and we're expecting non-staffing the original requests to the finance office by the 20th of January this month, and the staffing roster by the 30th of January. We've begun development of a finance office action plan. So there are several areas where we need to either tighten our controls or there are opportunities for improving our efficiencies and just strengthen the department overall. So part of these also overlap with the process to wrap up the fiscal 25 audit and to roll into where we're at. And a lot of this, again, it's the result of the growth that the department has made in the last in the past. So we've converted over to a new payroll system, converted over a couple of years ago to the Tyler accounting system. So we're in a place where I think where we should be, but we need to take better, there's opportunities to take fuller advantage of the capabilities in the system and to again improve our accuracy and our control. So more to come on that. I'll report on that in future meetings. We met with the auditor, identified the tasks to complete and for the fiscal 25 audit. Those tasks include reconciling to the town. We need to improve or implement position control. And again, we need to finish some of the other fund closeouts for the audit. So again, all of these are included in the material of the overall cleanup that I would call that we would do to correct and complete the data in the system. There's also training that we need to implement some of these processes. Acting Assistant Superintendent Savastano and I met with the town treasurer, deputy town treasurer, tax assessor, and the finance administrative assistant at town hall. I think we had a very productive meeting. I think we will have a very solid and productive working relationship. And I found that is extremely important. So again, we again, we had a solid meeting there. We developed the request for proposal for the food service provider. As you may or may not be aware, our last extension for Chartwell's expires at the end of this school year. That RIDE has gone out and done the master bid, but they've also recommended that individual districts this year might find savings by releasing their own bids due to the competitive environment. So we're taking that on. That bid is on the agenda, I think, for you guys to just to bless before we send it out. Keep in mind, food service is extremely regulated, so we're using a state template. This is not something that we have a lot of leeway or creativity about. So so when you look at that RFP, we're using the state template.
We try and shake them down every year.
Yeah, yeah.
Never can. I mean, we know they got big bucks, they got big this, they got big. We know there's not a lot out there, but those of us who have been around for a little while, some of our previous members who had us, you would try and shake them down every year. I don't know if we actually got anywhere ever, but it got kind of but always try.
Yeah, that's right. No harm in asking. So, and then probably more importantly, this period, I've been doing a deep dive into our budget to actual and our year-to-date projections, and begun not only identifying kind of where we're at, but identifying and correcting budget, accounting, and position control data that needs to be, I'd say, tidy up to get our system to be a finally honed, finally oiled machine. So that's kind of where we're at. When we can do that, then we're not struggling with doing our task work, and we can focus later on identifying some real forward progress issues like that will make us more efficient. So anyways, thank you very much, and I appreciate your time.
So I'm not sure if you're aware, either one of you, that once we start entering into the budget season, which we have, we do workshops that because not all districts do it the same way we do, where we will have these workshops as an open meeting to discuss the budgets after the principals have all submitted theirs, and we start having discussions on where we stand and how things are. So I wonder, and I'm asking if we should start thinking about scheduling those up, or what type of timeline. Of
So-
course, we don't have to schedule it right now, but we will need to.
Previous timelines, correct me, and then talk about trying to keep it. So we changed fiscal years. We were one of two, if you, right, so this was going back a little bit. So we always started everything in December before, but that was based on.
Needing to be done early. Now we don't have to do.
Right, and so I'm just trying to put that out there, like a timeline reflective of.
We work backwards. So when we talk to Karen Beatty and come up with a time that we are going to need to present to the town, we work backwards of how many times we want to
And
meet prior to.
Whether you do or don't know it, we are one of, maybe one of two, maybe municipalities that we actually have a town financial meeting. So a little different than a lot of places. Wait and see. Wait and see.
Yeah, we don't have a
Little something like
manager.
do.
When we met with the town, we did talk about like the timeline and the dates. They did not have their dates finalized yet. So we did talk about like how we would need to back into that. So once we have, and that was that last week?
We're usually the last ones to go.
So
So whenever Karen needs to have it submitted to the state, we're usually closer to that date for one of our final meetings with them. We're usually the last to go in the town, the last department to present.
So we'll get the dates from her, and then do you want to talk about the dates you've already given to the principals?
Yeah, sure. We had, so the principal's non-staffing requests are due to the central office, the 20th of January, which is the Tuesday after the long weekend. The staffing requests are due at the end of the month. That will give us some time to consolidate the requests. We're using a process. We're trying to get the stuff in an Excel spreadsheet, which is easier. The administrators have told us for them to enter but in a format that we can upload into the system. So that gives us some time to consolidate and then to take that request and identify maybe some duplicate entries or some gaps and that sort of thing. And we've got, I think it's the 11th and the 12th of February blocked off at that point to have our an element, I think it's the 11th is elementary and the 12th is secondary, have the teams come in to review the budgets, with each other and with us to, again, iron out those discrepancies. We preliminarily, when we talked to talked to Karen, and we, again, this is not carved in stone, but we're thinking that if we can bring the budget to the school committee at the March meeting, Karen was thinking, well, then we could have a review with the town towards the end of March. And then that kind of laid up, I guess there's another meeting in May and then the actual town meeting in June. I think it's good. So that's a little fuzzy for us right now. We haven't nailed it down, but that was kind of our,
Broad stroke.
yeah.
So I'm just like, I just Googled as we're sitting here. So is this correct? The town financial meeting is usually the first Tuesday after the first Monday in June.
I think that's right.
So that's, it just changed recently. Last year, I think the first.
The first time we did it.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So you're anticipating sometime in March where we would have our first workshop. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions from the school committee? I see Mr. Finnegan is up again. I remind you, Mr. Finnegan, 3 minutes.
3 seconds.
Thank you.
Are we paying any late fees on bills?
Are we paying any late fees on bills?
Honestly, I can't answer that right now. I will look into it. Again, in the last 2 weeks, I haven't seen any late fees, but I will double check.
And can we have that on next month's if we are? Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to public comment. Again, come up, state your name and your address and 3 minutes, please. Yeah.
I can barely even reach using my hand. Jenna Rutherford, 334 Bungie. So during the superintendent's report, I heard you mention Alice. What was the timeline for the training? When are you starting it?
Do you understand the question?
So we're working to outline our all trainings, not just Alice Plus, things like evacuation training. And so we're working together with the police department to work on that. We'll have a crisis team meeting this Friday, and then we'll have a plan. I will share, having been in a district that did implement Alice completely and having been an Alice trainer in the district. It was a like a 4 to 9 month experience to really train the community, because families should be trained and students, and how we train a 7-year-old is very different from a 17-year-old. So I know that part of this was started here. And then there is an ongoing, you hire new staff, and how are we made it part of our new staff orientation, for example. So all of those pieces, I have a personal outline done. I've talked with the chief. I've talked with the SRO. I worked with the leadership team. Now we need folks like emergency response to come together and talk through that. And then I've also talked specifically about additional trainings with our SRO. And then beyond that, things like drills and practices that we are adding in the near future as well. So I don't have for you, like, here's the plan, but I can tell you kind of the work that's been done behind the scenes. It is extremely urgent and important in my life, and I don't know that there's anything more important here. I'm passionate about the work, but I also know that it is not something that I can say, like, we're going to offer a day on June 19th and check it off. Like, in my mind, a proper implementation doesn't work that way. I also understand we owe the community a thoughtful plan with respect to how we can also keep a level of safety and security internally at the same time. So we will have that plan for you, and and I will work in partnership with of course, with the chief, with the police department, and also with the crisis team to do that.
Okay, will parents be alerted when the training starts?
I would absolutely. So for example, I just had shared the SSD update. So I would use that update as one method of communication. I know the schools I would ask them to also, and I'm speaking from how I handled it previously. We did things even like working with the neighborhoods, because when you're really doing a proper Alice training, it's a larger community, but absolutely families need to know what their students and their children are experiencing that day in the class, if they are having, a training on a certain day and a topic. It's only in our best interest to have our parents be our partners. So yes, we would absolutely update you, and then I would work with the building leadership to make sure you had the more specific dates. If district gave you a range, then we would have the buildings give you those updates as we work through with the plan.
Okay, I think I'm a little leery because this was promised to us almost 3 years ago at this point, and there's been no movement. So I think I want more accurate updates. I shouldn't have to wake up in the middle of the night and go, wait a minute, didn't we already talk about this? And then I have to go through the treasurer's website and read all the minutes and find where we had already spoken about this and it was already committed to us that this was already going to happen. And I shared that minutes in an email to everyone, so everyone knew what they were dealing with when I got up here tonight. So I do want to know what happened. Why didn't we do this 3 years ago?
I think that's a very legitimate question, Jenna. And I went back to look at some emails to refresh my memory. And I will say, and I brought some notes on some of those emails. And I'll say that on June 23rd, 2023, I was sent an email that 17 participants outside the district enrolled in Alice training that we're hosting. So I'm hearing that this Alice training had started as of June 23rd. Talks about 29 Scituate staff members have completed the online training for the Alice program. On June 26th, It talked about the training that we hosted here. And since we hosted it here and had a certain number of participants, not just from our town, but from outside of town, 2 people got to be trained here for free. So I'm getting these emails. And then
My cousin stating that that was more of a train the trainer type of piece.
no,
That
well, I'm just saying this,
the
this
two
is the,
people that were trained for free, I believe, if I remember correctly, it was supposed to be a train the trainer type of event. So if again, I can't, we can't go back, we can go forward, but I was, my understanding was, and I remember exactly what you're talking about. And a previous facilities director was bringing somebody in to do the training, and because we were hosting, they were going to train 2 of our people to do a train the trainer. That's my recollection.
so that's what those 2 emails
I
were for.
believe.
I'll say on the 17th of September, I also received an email that was shared with me by the superintendent who is responding to another parent saying, yes, Scituate is practicing Alice. We're also required by RIDE to hold certain number of fire drills, lockdown drills, shelter in place drills, and the assistant superintendent was talking about that.
Are you saying that the past superintendent or Andrades, right, at this
Correct.
lied to the
No, I'm not
parent?
saying that. I'm saying this is what my understanding from this email is that, yes, we're practicing. Maybe that was just practice, whatever that practice means. In my mind, it's like, oh, we're practicing Alice. We're required by RIDE, as I mentioned. The staff has all been trained in Alice, and we continue to train and support the students and teachers around the safety protocols. I have that from September 17th. The one after that on the 27th,
Sorry, was it September this month or this year?
24. Oh, wait, 24. So in my mind, I'm thinking, and I actually don't really know what all the Alice training components are about. I know there are scenarios, and even Vistana was talking about alerting the neighbors. I actually didn't know the students were involved in this. I don't know the Alice training, so I'm just reading that. Yes, staff are all the staff are trained. I know that Azino Bellucci in her Well Done Wednesday on November 2nd of 23 talks about making sure that new staff that come in are trained with the online training. I have another email here about making sure that the parents got their there's a video for parents to watch, and that was supposed to go out. So
Hey, I want to just clarify something. And I hate to put any of you're all in a little corner, like I can just hit you right up. There's a good number of principals right there. Have your staff over the last, that was from 2 years ago, received a form of Alice training?
Second,
Yeah.
no one from home can hear you.
So I'm sorry, I put you on the spot. What?
They received a 1-hour online virtual training, which my understanding was the preliminary to like in-person trainings that would be occurring in the future.
So it appears that what I'm just gathering evidence that the process started. I think this is a great topic to bring, that we're going to have the crisis response team this week is, I mean, you can check off a box and say that they did, a virtual training to say that we did it, but it sounds like, and again, I'm not, but even with your experience, I just want to come up with something, acting assistant, honor superintendent. And I hate,
kind of long, right?
I hate to call you Linda because it sounds so informal and non-respectful, but when I go like this, we certainly, it wasn't done with any, there's no judgments attached, but it's a process that could be much embedded much better in the future. I mean, yes, we could have a resource to send a training, so maybe we did check a box without saying, but it certainly sounds as though there's a greater need. And I won't put you guys on the spot, but you could just for some form of ongoing, this isn't a one and done. Yes, we can show somebody a new video when they come walking in, but that's a different process that will.
I had asked
This
the
is also
question.
why I want a timeline. This is why I want to know what steps we've done, when we're doing them, because it's not being done.
It's my understanding, because I asked the question, if someone just has the online training, are they trained? And Alice, and the answer is no. You need the scenario training, if that's the proper word.
And I think, not to interrupt you, but I think that we were all under the understanding by, we're all blind copied on these emails, so we don't know who else gets them. But all of these I have as well. I searched them in preparation, so thank you for giving us a heads up. That all staff were trained, but I guess it was a video. And in any other scenario, and Chief, you may give us that information better, that it is far more than just lockdowns and, shelter in place, those types of things, but it's a lot more involved than just a video.
I'm not well versed in the Alice training, but what I do know, we did. I met with the SRO this morning. We went over some topics. One of them was the Alice training. In my research with him, we came up with. It was suggested, I believe, that the committee approved this, an Alice training initiation. The superintendent. We have a great working relationship. We've always had a great working relationship with the school department, and how we work with them, I mean, up to a point. We can't impose what we want, but we can make suggestions. And the suggestion was, Alice training. We collaboration with the school department. Superintendent had the buildings facilities manager. Jason Martin was he took the lead on this. He through conversation with us, with the safety team, that he had been trained as an instructor. And I'm not trying to point fingers. I'm just giving the facts as they were laid out. And I have the timeline because I looked through my emails also today. Jason Martin took the lead with the approval through the superintendent. He was an instructor with Alice. He set up a training here for, Colleen, you were right, an instructor training. We sent two sergeants, the SRO being one of them, and another sergeant to the Alice training as an instructor. They were certified instructors. We were ready to roll into the Alice training with the schools. Again, we can make suggestions, but we can work with the school department, but we're not going to impose what we want. And
Chief, may I ask, I know obviously the SRO is still with us. Is the other sergeant that was trained still, I know there's been staffing changes.
Yes.
Is that person still with you in the? Perfect.
Yes. And the dates of that training was in August of 22. So that goes back a ways. They're probably going to need a refresher. There is a refresher coming up in state that we can send them to.
The trainer pieces, and then
instructor
it would
portion.
be, am I correct in stating this? And again, working collaboratively, that your police officers would then be the ones doing the Alice training within the schools?
The hands-on, the in-person training. There is a module that, and the principals were right. There was an online, I don't know what timeline or how long that video was, but that's the initial introduction to Alice training. The next step was to actually get into the training with the staff and the students and everyone else.
I want to just jump in here for a second, because I think we can't go back, we can go forward, but I think,
Exactly.
but we all own a piece of this. I don't think pointing fingers at, and nor do I think that's what you were doing, Chief, but like, you're right, you can only do so much. But I think it's fair to say that those of us that have been around for a little while know that we've never had a full, it's a pretty big deal when you're enmeshed with the community and you're doing these trainings. So that we may have, like I said, checked that little box, and it's a shame that it had to take another near tragedy near home for us to revisit this. But I think it's an app, just as acting assistant superintendent stated, is there's nothing more important than the kid's safety. So this is a move forward. I'm sure that with this will be, Chief, you are also part of the, I know the SRO is there. Are you usually there for the,
Yes.
You're there for the crisis response, right? Yes. All right. So,
And it's leading back into that, the conversations I've had for a number of conversations with the acting assistant superintendent relative to Alice training and all other trainings also with the school. So we're moving forward with that. We can do the refresher with our guys and get them back up to speed. Maybe we need to add one more. I'm not sure. We'll take a look at that on our end. We're more than willing to, again, continue to work through whatever we need to get to get staff trained and everyone trained that we need, whatever direction you want to go in. If I could add to, circle back to the original comments, change the topic here. The first comments that the acting assistant superintendent made relative to the Brown tragedy. Obviously, that weekend was a very difficult weekend. Behind the scenes stuff that nobody knows, and I don't know if she relayed the info. I'm sure she did, as I did to the council members, what was going on behind the scenes on the police side and on the school side in our communication together. She was very receptive, answered the phone. I mean, I can be
Oh, I've seen you come and go. I'm sure you got a few other things going on, but the superintendent has actually sung the praise of you, your department, and the collaborative efforts that we can't appreciate it. I mean, you may not have been here to hear it, but it was expressed to the utmost degree of how appreciative we are of that.
No, I say it all the time. We have a great bunch of police officers. I have a great administrative team that help and support me, and the police officers that we have are tremendous. I can't say enough good stuff about them. Hardworking men and women. And the weekend, calling Linda at 10:30 at night on Sunday night, and she took the lead and put out not a press release, a letter to the community. So she took lead on that because I was getting information from law enforcement as to updates and what we were going to do Monday. And then we changed what we were doing Monday to Tuesday. And I'll be honest, again, a tragic incident like that opens up an opportunity. And we were exposed to some of what goes on in the schools from Linda down to, and I'm glad the principal stayed. We were welcomed by all the principals in all the schools with open arms, and the students, the staff, the clerical staff, the principals. It was a great collaboration that day. Our offices were working over 16 hours each day. Overnight shift was staying. Day shift was hanging over. So it was a lot of work on the police offices, on the school department. There was a lot of pressure on the school department. The school facilities director, the new director, I can't say tremendous. The offices in the school found some deficiencies. I relayed them to Linda. I spoke with the principals of the schools. They were immediately handled, taken care of, not asked how much it costs, what it needs to be done. He did it and it wrapped up within a day. Everything was corrected. So applaud them, applaud the principals, applaud their staff and the students in each school. Our offices, although a tragic situation to get them in there, they had a great time. And obviously we have an SRO that's nationally recognized across the country, and he does a great job over here. Offices in the North Scituate School, he had a great time up there. We had a sergeant down in Clayville that was having lunch with the students. We had an officer down in Hope playing volleyball with the students. So it opened up a lot of different experiences. And our SRO had to go to Providence for a debriefing. He's part of the peer support team across the state. He went to Providence. I stepped in and came to our high school and middle school. And it's a different experience. I commend him for what he does. I had a great time. The students were great. They were interactive, and it was fun. Unfortunate time to why to be there, but it was fun. We gave away all the Starburst too, so that was a good part. But back to the Alice training, we're ready to go. We'll get that refresher done. Again, I've been working with I almost said Linda, but the acting assistant superintendent about trainings, and we're going to get this done. So a little confidence goes a long way in this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just make sure.
Sorry, I knew that. So you said there was a point person for the facilities. Can I also ask that there's a point person on the school committee so this doesn't get lost again?
I'm part of the school, the district crisis response team. So if it's okay with everybody else, I will make sure that the committee is aware of what's going on, and we'll work collaboratively to make sure.
Okay,
it's moving
thank you.
forward.
Hey, Jenna.
Richard Finnegan Ridge Road. November, December, and January, letters went out to the community. And they're from the school committee. And the last one, January, ends with sincerely, the school committee. Is the school committee aware of all these letters going out in their names?
So I guess I can respond to, I had taken a note on, one of those recently. So the most recent one, I think you said was January 2nd. There was a email that I received, actually I went back and looked at 2:15, that stated that this, I didn't see it at 2:15. Obviously I saw it after I was working, that this letter was going to be going out to the community. And the next one behind it was the letter. So I did not know that I can speak for myself. I did not know that that letter was going out. I don't know if, other people did. It was like a 2-hour window. It was a communication. It was an information, but I think valid to your point is if something's coming from, I don't know. I mean, that might be a good question for our attorney. I'm sorry?
Who's
But I think the question is if something is going out in the name of the school committee, do we have to vote on something like that going out? Do we have to, I don't know the answer to that.
John, you need your mic on. It's still not on. Okay.
If something is informational that is being sent out, no. On the other hand, if you are making policy by way of sending things out, the answer to that would be yes.
Just to be clear, I did run all the information and wording by legal before anything went out. To make sure it was proper and legal.
I think because that had come to me again. I saw the 2 emails, one saying this is going out at the end of the day, like, and 2 hours later it going out. I don't have, and again, it was information, but it's really not in essence from the Scituate School Committee. If we haven't reviewed it and done it prior to being sent out. I think if you're looking at the letter, that's my understanding of it anyway.
So
I'm not disagreeing with the information. I'm not saying, but I think as a point, there's some validity to that. For that particular one, I know that I saw it after I saw the public notification first. I get the public notifications. And then I went back and said that it said from the Scituate School Committee. I had no idea what that was.
John, am I correct in saying that a school committee chair, one of the authorities is to speak on behalf of the school committee or just on behalf of the district? Was it inappropriate to have sent those out and sign it from the school committee, or should it have just been signed from the school committee chair?
Again, I think that it depends on the nature of the communication.
The ones that were sent, then let's talk about those. The ones that were sent, that were informational, was it inappropriate to sign it as from the Scituate School Committee?
I would want to reread.
All right, so I'll be more mindful of that going forward.
The important thing is, frankly, ladies and gentlemen, is that we're exploring whether or not we can file, 6th, 7th Open Meetings Act complaint.
No, I'm gonna stop you there, John. I go a long way, but I'm gonna stop right there. And I know Mr. Finnegan likes to find his way to the microphone frequently. This is a question. I appreciate I can like what you're saying in the sense that you're saying you checked with legal and you sent a document out. I think there's validity to the fact of if you're signing something saying the Scituate School Committee.
Does it need approval?
That it needs approval. I'm not saying I know the answer to that, but
I'm asking you for the answer.
he's saying no, but I guess as a member of the school committee, and again, I think it'd maybe be more appropriate signing, again, if the superintendent is sending something out from the district, you speak for the district. We do not speak as the district. That would be you. Whereas the school committee, I think you are
my
I
opinion.
did collaborate.
No, yep, nope, and I think it was appropriate because it was a position that, it wasn't something that entailed you, so I don't know that. But I think there's a piece to that where it may have been most appropriate coming from, think about it from my perspective, this is more of I'm not arguing,
not-
I'm not saying that like,
Like going forward.
we need to get information out to people, but who are you? And I said that as nice as I
I
can.
thought that was my job.
But I think you should sign it from you as the
Okay.
chair. That's my opinion, if that makes sense. And maybe, depending on, I would
I'll
actually,
look into it. That's a good point.
On the November letter, it said, we will be conducting a full and open hiring process for the permanent assistant superintendent position. This is with our district standards and procedures. How's that process coming along?
The school committee has not met to discuss how we want to proceed forward with that. Because this all just happened. So the school committee needs to meet to discuss how we want to proceed.
But in the letter that the public received,
Mhm.
saying that that's the process.
The process
Gonna follow.
and the first step of that process is to have the school committee meet to discuss how that process is going to be.
Well, I want to make it very clear to the school committee that the superintendent or the acting assistant superintendent is responsible for all appointments in the district. That's the
Yep.
law.
And then this January letter goes out and says the school committee will be sharing additional information with the community as leadership transition plans and next steps are developed. Well, November, we were told we're going to have a process of hiring a permanent assistant superintendent. Now it's up in the air. From what I'm getting from these public letters, I'm a little confused. That's all. I'm just confused. And I don't like being
I
confused.
don't think that's right. Listen,
And then-
can I see the letter? Because I don't have a copy.
Sure. While you review that letter, I'd like to thank the police department in stepping up the security and for overtime for our school district, for each school in the community. Because that Brown University manhunt it's a pretty scary time in this community. And I went by most schools in this community and I saw a police officer with a patrol car outside guarding those children and teachers in the schools. And I appreciate the men and women, chief of the police department. Thank you. Job well done protecting our children. I know we have $190,000 that the people of this district appropriated at the financial town meeting, and this school committee appropriated $122,000 for a position. I believe it was a kindergarten position down in Hope. That means there's $67,000 left over. Is the school committee going to reimburse the police department for the overtime pay for those days that those police officers had to work? I mean, I know the town's trying to claw some money back from the school committee. So this is a way to give the town some of that money. So I would ask the school committee to take that up. I'm also going to ask the town council if they're going to send the school committee a bill for those hours worked in overtime. Thank you, chief. Thank you, men and women, for me. Thank you.
So to answer your question about the letter, it says the school committee shall share additional information. You had already read this, but I'll read it again. With the community as leadership transition plans and next steps are developed. This is in reference to a Superintendent Andrews formally notifying the school committee of her resignation. So this is referencing that we will share with the community leadership transition plans, but we haven't met to even discuss it with ourselves. So once we have decided how we want to proceed forward, what the timeline is, how we want to do it, we will share it with the community. That's what that reference. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you. Now, my understanding, when we hired a assistant superintendent, my understanding was the assistant superintendent was to step in for the superintendent when the superintendent was out.
Correct.
That was my understanding.
Correctly. She's currently the acting superintendent as the sitting assistant superintendent. Yes.
I just want to make that clear because I was
Yeah.
a little confused. 'cause
It's-
I keep saying
It's a lot.
assistant superintendent, but I think she's the.
Yeah,
I-
it's a lot.
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
gonna-
you.
Did I say that right?
It's like who's on first, but I think to pull it all together, our understanding, and just so everyone's clear, is that the woman sitting two over from me was hired as an acting, no,
Yes.
as an acting
assistant.
assistant superintendent.
No, she was hired as assistant.
Nope.
superintendent,
She-
acting
No,
superintendent.
no, this. Look, Linda, you're part, you have a contract, so you were hired as an acting
Mm-hmm.
assistant superintendent.
Correct.
With the plan of when the superintendent comes back, that you could still function in that role as acting. The superintendent is out on leave and did not return when we thought so. You are, and ready for this? You are an acting superintendent in your role as an acting assistant superintendent,
Mhm.
if that's
Exact-
clear. And it's,
Yes.
this is nobody, and quite
Sorry.
frankly, honestly, our two new hires are acting
Interim.
interim.
Right.
It's the way the verbiage has gone out. And
Mhm.
this is not a reflection of anybody's present performance. It is the situations that we're in. Obviously, many of these positions were posted prior to,
Thank you.
yes. So,
Yeah.
Got it.
yeah.
And I'll just share that I've been an assistant superintendent before in my life and had a superintendent go away on vacation for 2 weeks or need to leave the country for X. And in that, but I still remained the assistant superintendent and behaved in the role of superintendent covering anything. So that's how I have functioned through this, is I hold a superintendent certification, so I can do things superintendent, but I was hired as assistant soup, and so.
But to be clear, just so everyone's on the same page, you, you've said you've done that, but you have also served as, you were a superintendent.
I have.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, I have
it's-
been in a
it's-
different district.
I know, I'm sorry. It's just,
Since everybody, we're done with public comment in the audience, we can go to Zoom. So I see DeGuano.
Yes, hi. I have two things.
Could you
to talk
just
about.
give us your
I'm
address,
so
please?
sorry, I'm so sorry. It's Lenore DeGuano, Alyssa Court. Am I
Thank
good to
you.
go? Thank you.
Yes, please.
So I just want to touch on two separate things. First, I want to thank the superintendent, the acting superintendent, on touching on the security, Alice security and all that for our school. I also want to thank the other mom that got up and asked those questions, because I fully agree with her that we definitely need to know what's going on and we want to know when it's going on. I am now a Scituate parent, Scituate middle school parent, which I used to be Hope. And I'm so disgusted that Scituate, like school system, not the teachers, not the principals, Scituate school system, whether it was Andrews, people on the school committee dropped the ball on the security and lockdowns and staff training. I'm beyond disgusted. We had an incident, probably, I'm gonna say it was in 2000 and, I don't know, maybe 19 at Hope Elementary, and it was very scary. And it was somebody who worked there. Actually, I don't think most people know what happened, but it was somebody who worked there, a custodian, that threatened and had a mental, basically, breakdown in the school. And our kids were on lockdown for almost 50 minutes. Kids, kindergartners locked in a gym closet, kids locked in stalls, standing on toilet seats. I mean, it couldn't have been more real for the children, the staff, and the parents at Hope, in Scituate, at Hope Elementary. The fact, again, that the ball was dropped by whomever it was dropped, and these security measures and trainings. What's an online training? Are you kidding me? What is it, a questionnaire? It should 100% be done in person. And I will say this, I hope that the school committee who's sitting on that board right now does the active training as well, because you guys should you should know just as well as the teachers and the staff and the children how that system works. And we as parents want to know how it works too. So we definitely don't want to be kept in the dark about anything ever again. And I agree with the other mom who got up there. We want transparency, we want dates, we want time. Does that make sense?
Yep, that's all great points. Thank you for sharing.
Secondly, the acting superintendent touched on Hope Elementary and the heat. So I just want to update her because she's new and some of you on the board are new and you do not know the first of all, Hope Elementary should be condemned. It is not safe. Heat doesn't work. No air conditioning, not in any school, but literally 3 floors of rug, mold. The temperatures in that school, and I have them from previous staff members now that are so afraid to speak up because they're so afraid of losing their jobs or getting picked on. They sit in 128-degree classrooms. I had made like a huge deal about this for the past 6 years that my son was there. I finally made such a big deal. We had like a heat wave and it was in September. And it had gotten so bad that I fought with Miss Andrews about dismissing schools. And what she said to me was, well, I can't dismiss because Hope Elementary is so bad. I can't dismiss all of Scituate for that. So we're just gonna have to figure it out. So I went into the school, I met with superintendent, the principal, and Jason at that time, who was maintenance, or not maintenance, building, whatever it was. And they brought in the meter. And I don't even think Jason wanted to say in front of me what it was, but I know what the temperature in those rooms were. And nobody should have been in that school at that point. So I made such a big deal about it that the superintendent had to, basically they moved the children to part of the library across the street and the police department, the old police department, where it was air conditioning. And on top of it, made the mistake of having the children walk from Hope Elementary in the 100-degree heat to the police department, which was appalling to neighbors, people that were driving by, like parents, everything. Instead of getting a bus and taking them over there, it would have taken 3 minutes. Instead, it took 25 minutes for these poor kids. So I just want you to know as superintendent what goes on in that school, because again, the teachers are afraid to speak up. Nobody should live in that. I want you guys to go sit in that in the summertime. Well, not even in the summer, September, even October, April, May. It is brutal in there. And you guys need to have a plan in place instead of those stupid fans that you brought in, because that was another thing. We went to a building committee meeting and finally, Miss Diaz applied for a grant or a bond, and I know you guys remember this. And instead of using the money to do what you were supposed to do with it, it got put towards other things that had nothing to do with making Hope Elementary more comfortable for the students and the staff. That's a whole nother.
Mr. Guano?
So I don't want to hear about the 3 minutes, Ms. McCormick.
Oh, I'm sorry. Colleen, are the 3 minutes up?
Oh, I don't care if they're up.
Linda, the 3 minutes are up.
Yep,
But
I understand that they're up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate the.
But that doesn't mean that we're not interested in hearing what else.
No, you're
you
not,
have to
Ms.
say.
McCormick, because you can't get on that button fast enough. These
No,
are
but-
conditions that no
I'm sorry,
children.
Chris, I think we are going to have to continue this conversation at another time.
No, Ms.
But
McCormick, everybody wants to
out
hear
of
it but
the-
you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Just out of fairness for everyone else, excuse me, at the meeting and to continue on with our business. But for Ms. DeGuan, I just want her to know if she can still hear me. there's still an opportunity to share your concerns. We are well aware of the heat that takes place in Hope. I've been actually on the top floor during it. And it, that we know that something has to be done. We have a new facilities director. So please reach out to the acting superintendent anytime and or any school committee member, and we'll certainly continue listening to your concerns. Hi, Matt.
Matthew Allen, 159 Hope Furnace Road. I just actually have a question about the training. When you guys do your training, are you going to find out about any of the kids with special ed needs that are going to need extra assistance getting out of the school? I know some of them wear headphones. I know my son had issue transitioning just for fire alarms, so let alone having to be exited out. I know they do active shooter drills and stuff like that, but are you guys going to do any extra training, or is there any extra training that comes with it with kids with special needs?
I'd like to respond. In terms of not just for Alice training, but for all training, that is connected to safety. So whether it be a lockdown or even an evacuation, if you think about just a simple, there's a gas leak and we need to evacuate kind of evacuation. What normally happens and is required is that each school has a plan, and attached to the plan is the specific student plan for each student that may require something additional. So for example, I had a student before who needed to be vertical to breathe. So imagine an evacuation, which we had a bomb threat with a student that needs to be vertical to be able to breathe. So that student had a special plan attached to the district. Everybody studied it. Everybody in the school was aware of it because you don't know where the student could be during when you need to evacuate. And so those are special. There's a special expected template in the state for emergency response. And so that we would align that same practice and system with an Alice response. So you are spot on. It is already something we know that we need to do in terms of all trainings that we do for safety, but we absolutely need to do that with Alice as well. And then I'll couple something else you called out that's very important is the emotional supports as well, I think about, because that need can vary for not just our students, but for our adults. And and we need to keep in mind that these, even when doing a training and well aware that this is a training, it does, it can be hard and overwhelming to deal with, and the importance of that debrief, I'll call it, which sounds insensitive, but the debrief and the conversation that we need to have with folks to help them to process what they are experiencing. And that's important too, to remember in terms of supporting each individual student that may have varying needs upon what their responses are.
Yeah, I only bring it up because, like I said, my son had issues. In kindergarten, they practiced the way out of the building of Hope. One fire alarm, he did fine. The next one, he was in the cafeteria and he wanted to go the fire route that he was taught. Of course, Mrs. Toomey, Mrs. Rose, the special ed teacher there, they all were there to help him. But once you guys start training them in certain situations, they're going to go the route they know. He was in Mrs. Rose one time when the fire alarm got pulled. I physically watched Mrs. Rose, his para, and the custodian trying to get him out of the building while I watched from the parking lot because it happened right before pickup. Now I can see his classmates. I look up and they're trying to get him out of the building. So from there on, Mrs. Rose made what is it, Mrs. Toomey? Social stories. There we go. Social stories to get him out of the building, and so he doesn't have to wear headphones and obviously the new quieter fire alarms like disco balls right now. But I'm hoping that there's a social story that goes out to all the kids, not just my kid, so the parents can go over how important it is and active shooter drills, staying quiet and stuff like that. But if anybody else has any physical, like you said, being vertical, that they're also aware that the officers going into the building in any of the training knows that there are certain kids that do have certain disabilities. And obviously in the middle of a crisis, not always is there somebody to help the situation. They could be in another part of the building. Like Mrs. Rose could be upstairs versus he's in the back of the building. to be able to get him out. So that way all the other teachers know too how to get these kids out of the building.
Thank you, Matt. It sounds like there's definitely going to be a plan. I'd like to move on to new business. We have a recommendation to appoint Dr. Gray Tubman for our school dentist. Does anyone have any questions before we take a vote on that? So do I have a motion for Dr. Gray? Is it Tubman? Tubman? As our dentist.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next is for the RFP for the lunch program, which Mr. Baxter had already explained to us. Do I have a motion to go forward with the RFP for the school lunch program?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. And we're going to table the RFP for Manning Field because it's not quite prepared yet. And does anyone have any announcements?
I would just like to say, and I think it's been said a lot of times, but I think I can speak on behalf of the entire committee without taking a vote on this one, but you know, we've definitely had I think I'm gonna call you Linda right now because it's getting really late. Linda said we had to step through some difficult times. I picked up on that verbiage that you used. So we've got some new players at the table. We've got some newer administrators. We got an old chief. No, I don't mean that, but the chief's been around for a little bit and some of our players have been around for a bit. So just thank you to everybody. Like, I think it's been some very difficult times for parents, for students, for educators. And, you know, Chief hit it right on when he said from, you know, the clerical staff throughout the entire building, right back to all of your ladies and gentlemen at, I could be careful. I used to call you guys my favorite, but I have a son on another department now, so I have to kind of play favorites. But you guys are the best. So we certainly appreciate that cooperation, and please extend back to all of them how much I know all of our parents and community were very thankful for everything you guys were able to do. I know Mr. Finnegan talked about money. I think at the time when that happens, is the beautiful thing about Scituate, we don't care who's paying for what, right? We're going to do what we need to do for these kids. And again, I'll speak for just myself on this. But if there is something that had a fiscal impact that's negatively affecting, then we can talk about it, right? But as always, it's just doing what we need to do. Safety is, Linda said it, without safety, nothing else really matters. So thank you to all. And please, administrators, pass on to your staff and all the way through. I know some of the people that make me feel safest in some of the schools sometimes are some of our custodial staffs and secretaries, and it's everybody, right? It takes a village. So thank you all.
Well said.
Yes. I agree.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Yep. Do I have a second?
Second.